What happens when people from two different worlds collide? Susan was going about her day when she decided to share a meal with a homeless man, unaware that this gesture would stand to show the true meaning of the butterfly effect. The two were oblivious of the drastic changes that this meeting would have in both of their lives for the better. Susan was an aspiring entrepreneur. From a very young age, she dreamt of owning her own restaurant, which she built from scratch. Regardless of how pretty the idea was in her head, she soon realized that things would not be that simple. Frustrated with how things were panning out, Susan decided to get her mind off of things by getting something to eat. While ordering sandwiches for her and her friend, Susan got a call that made her day seem worse than it was already panning out to be. After receiving the sandwiches for takeaway, she left the restaurant and started wandering the streets for a nice spot to sit and eat when something caught her eye. While scanning the area for a good spot, words written on a cardboard cutout placed next to a man caught her eye. It only took her a few seconds to decide on what she should do. With no second thought, Susan made her way to the spot where the man was seated. Seeing as to how her friend already canceled on her, Susan had a sandwich to spare and wanted company. Once the man realized that Susan was making her way to him, he looked up with a smile and said a few words. Those words made her feel that she had made the right choice by coming over to him. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Hope you've been having a good day," the man initiated. Susan directly sat down next to him and replied, "Can't complain really, but I'm looking to share a meal with someone. Would you mind?" Just like that, the two started munching on their respective sandwiches, oblivious to what their conversation will lead to. Enjoying their meal, the two introduced themselves. Susan learned that the man's name was Kevin, and he was 28. Being younger than him by only 1 year, Susan spoke comfortably with him. While getting to know each other better, Kevin asked Susan a question that provided him with an answer that made his eyes light up. Seeing as to how comfortably Susan was speaking, Kevin asked her about her aspirations. Susan then told Kevin about her dream of owning a restaurant of her own. As soon as she stopped speaking, she turned to her side to find Kevin looking back at her with a look of shock and slight admiration. Susan felt her cheeks heat up as watched his gaze. "What is it?" she inquired. He then went on to explain that he has always dreamt of being the head chef of a restaurant, but could not afford to finish his studies in culinary school. Hearing this bit of information made her eyes light up with hope. Could this be? She thought to herself. Realizing what opportunity was presented to her, Susan directly grabbed it. She explained how she has been facing an issue finding a chef that was as dedicated as her, feeling like this could possibly be her chance to put her dream into action. The two then finished their meal and headed to the same place with one goal in mind. Susan waited as Kevin put on his best show, cooking his signature meal. It was as if she was watching the reenactment of the Disney movie Ratatouille, minus the rat, for that was the dish he prepared, and she had a similar reaction to the meal as one of the characters in the movie. Susan knew that to seize this opportunity, she had to act fast. Susan presented a deal to Kevin. The deal was to pay him a generous monthly fee to create a menu. If the meals were as impressive as the one he just made, she would hire him as the restaurant's head chef. Kevin directly accepted Susan's deal, unaware of how big of a change it will have on his life in every way possible. Every 2 days, Kevin presented a different plate that Susan enjoyed. By the time Kevin had created half of the menu, their meetings had already turned into dates. As more time passed, their feelings for each other grew, and their plans to launch the restaurant were almost ready. Soon after the restaurant opened, a significant yet sudden change occurred between the two. A month after opening the restaurant, Kevin started acting off and told Susan that he had something crucial to propose. He made the urgency of the situation clear, which left Susan with no choice but to close the restaurant for the day. Worried that Kevin could have changed his mind about his plans, she patiently waited to hear what proposition he had to present. Kevin's proposal ended up being a marriage proposal, making her swoon and laugh at herself at the same time. The two are now married and have 2 children and are still running a restaurant together. Kevin and Susan's story is what fairy tales are made of. It comes to prove that you never know where you might meet your soulmate. He might be just around the corner, literally or metaphorically.